And here's the thing, you do need to take massive action, but you know that you're taking the right kind of massive action when it doesn't feel spun out, splayed out, like, oh my God, I'm completely overwhelmed and something's got to give. Okay, so this is a bonus episode on unpacking how to stay unstoppable in the face of fear. So that was a previous episode that I taught on how to really keep going in the face of fear and the terror barrier. So check that out if you haven't listened to it already. But Sarah has some follow-up questions for me, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah Hackett. Go for it.
Hey, all right. As always, I'm going to jump right in. The first question I have is a little bit of a personal question. So the question that I have is, you've been talking about the terror barrier, not just in this last episode, but in a few of the episodes. So I really kind of want to know, and I think that I want the listeners to know, what are some of your terror barriers that have come up over the course of your life and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So my unique version of this, and it's unique meaning like everyone has a different way that their terror barrier comes up, but you might have the same ones that I do, but this is my version, okay? One, I mentioned this in the episode, which is exhaustion, okay? Like feeling like I need to sleep. And I'm a good sleeper, guys, so don't send me a lot of comments. I'm like, sleep is important. I get solid freaking sleep every night, okay?
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I'm a real, there's an exception to that rule every once in a while, but fundamentally, I go to sleep at 9:30 every night, and I'm up early at like 5, sometimes 4:30, sometimes 5:30, but I don't set my alarm, and I wake up naturally, and I don't wake up in a start. It's solid sleep. You're sick, you wake up. There's exceptions to that, but fundamentally, I get good solid sleep, and but like I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, not this last one, but in a previous one, that when I really made a big investment in my business and getting to the next level, I had a huge amount of shame around making that investment, spending that money, quite frankly, on myself. Even though it was on my business, it was very much wrapped up in my own self-worth and my own value. And I, for like the first 2 to 3 weeks after that, I was like in a freaking fetal position. Like I was under the table in the fetal position on the floor of my office, in bed, all of that. Actually, even before that, that just reminded me, when I hadn't yet made that big investment, but when I was trying, the first time I tried to really raise my prices significantly, but I wasn't able to hold it when I told that story. I remember I would be like lying on the floor of my office. I had this great rug. I loved the rug. It was nice and cushy. But I would just like, I couldn't get off the floor. I was like completely, it was like trauma. Okay. And, I would talk on the phone on the floor. I was like, I couldn't get off the floor. So that's coming back to me now.
But what do you think made you just choose to just be on the floor?
It was like, I don't know. That's a really good question. It was a pattern for sure. I mean, I remember as a child crawling under the table, like that was kind of like the safe space. Like I was 5 or 6 or 7 and the adults would be doing their thing and I'd be under the table and no one could see me. And, I could just observe the world and I didn't have to be out there and active. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, that kind of tracks.
Yeah. But so like retreating was a big thing. Exhaustion has been a big thing, and sometimes it shows up as actual. There's some physicality to it. It's not just in my head, right? It's not. I mean, here's the thing. It might have some of the physical exhaustion that I experienced might have been psychosomatic, but it was still exhaustion, and it was still keeping me from doing things. So. Brain fog, things like that are, symptoms of perimenopause, and that's the era that I'm in. I'm 49, so that was a few years ago, and so it tracks to that. But the extent to which, and like the resistance to getting help around it, and like not moving through it, all of that's real terror barrier stuff. I will also overdo things when I get into the terror barrier. Sarah just made a look, like a knowing look. Oh, that's why that happens. Yes.
You're kidding. That never happens.
Right. So that's a classic one for a lot of overachievers. We go into overaction. And here's the thing. You do need to take massive action, but you know that you're taking the right kind of massive action when it doesn't feel spun out, splayed out, like, oh my God, I'm completely overwhelmed and something's got to give, okay? But when I know that when that message starts going in my head, something's got to give, like that, I know that okay, we need to readjust here, okay? So those would be my particular ones. It used to be, it's no longer electronic stuff breaking. Occasionally I'll be looking at an app on my phone and be like, what the fuck, but that is less terror barrier now, and just like user error and like, yeah. So.
Okay. All right. I also want to talk about, and you bring this up in a few episodes, of course, is the giving back aspect. And I know that this is something that's really important to you, just, giving back and helping others and being of service. What are some of the ways that you've done that?
Yeah, well, so aside from just financial giving, I mean, it is a huge part of my business model, okay? From, hey, this podcast, no one's paying for this podcast, I've flown you out, I'm paying team to help me do this. We're investing time and energy into that. We're working on a weekend to get these first episodes out. All of that is like for the good of the world, okay? And not just about me. Is it part of my business model? Yeah, of course. Like, I'm not going to ignore that a certain percentage of the people that listen to this will want to come to the summit, will want to work with me personally, right? That's obvious, guys. Like, we don't have to not pretend that doesn't exist. But by far, the majority of people who are listening will just listen, and that's great. Okay, so I'm always looking to give in that level. So we do that in the business by our newsletters, the videos that we put out on YouTube, the groups that we have on Facebook. I'm in those groups and I'm giving comments and tips and advice and support to people. I will have conversations with people, not everyone, and I don't overgive, but I will have conversations with people and jump on a phone with them and be like, hey, you want, in fact, I'll put that out to the audience. If anyone in the listenership wants to have a 15-minute conversation with me, I'm happy to have that. But come to it with your question. Come prepared, because I will coach my ass off for you for those 15 minutes, okay? And I don't mean that to scare you, but let's have a real conversation about where you're at in your business, what you want, and what's stopping you. And I'll help you out with that. No problem. That's part of my business model. That's part of me thinking the more I give, the more I receive. And I might not receive it from the person I'm having the conversation from. That's totally fine. Okay? There is not an obligation, or is there a quid pro quo is what that's called, where you're expecting that from that. It's not that. It's not I scratch my back, your back, you scratch my back. It's just like a model of showing up of service always. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for you keep saying yeah, it's a part of my business model, but honestly, it's a part of who you are. Is the giving. That's you. That's who you are. I don't think you exist without that,
Absolutely. When you said that, Sarah, something else dropped in, which I hadn't really thought of when answering this question previously, which is, one of the things that Steph on my team says to everyone who we're considering hiring is one of the benefits of being on Amira's team, being part of the Unstoppable Woman, is that you get to hear what she says and her thought process, and you get coached, through the conversations about how we do our business here. And that is absolutely, I could withhold that. I could say, they figure it out on their own, but I want everyone to succeed. And if you're on my team, I mean, it serves me that you succeed, but that might mean I take a risk with that. That might mean that you come to me in a year or two and be like, I want to fly over here, right? That's a risk. I hope you fly in my company, and that you get to excel and be all that you want to be in my company. But if that changes, I'm not going to hold back and not give and not help the people in my life be, have the most extraordinary life that they can. Yeah.
I don't think it's even in you to hold that back for, especially the people that you're surrounded with frequently, that you get to know and that you love. You can't stop yourself, I don't think, from being like, hey, you have this in you.
Yeah. Well, to that end, let's talk about the law of vibration there. So if I want my team to give me all they can, to be loyal and committed and go for it and be overachievers and slaying, right? I need to show up in kind, okay? I mean, that's what being a leader is, but it's also like a vibrational level. It's like I am modeling energetically and actually in every single conversation what it means to show up. And then I get that in return, right?
Totally. I mean, we were just interviewing a new person the other day, and I called it the absorption factor.
Yeah.
It's just that being in your proximity it definitely has an effect, I think. So we went through several tips in that episode. What's kind of your very first go-to when you're hitting your own terror barrier?
Oh, I have to choose. So
obviously they all have their place, but what's the first one that you're like, okay, I need to do this?
I think I'm going to give you my top 3 because I can't choose. Okay. One is if I've really gotten triggered about something, it's going for a run. It's like, get me the hell out of Dodge. I need, let's move through this. Okay.
And you weren't always a runner.
And I wasn't
always a new thing.
Yeah.
How new is that?
2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's like some sort of physical thing that moves me through whatever energetic state I'm in. Action. Let me get a few things done. Let me get some successes in, right? And that often it's tricky because sometimes you want to do action that you're in a loop on, and that doesn't feel successful. So it's like, let me do a few things that I know I can get some wins on. Oftentimes that is talking to someone, right? Like picking up the phone, having a conversation with someone that I can help. That does really shift my energy. And what's the third one that I was going to share with you? Action. Asking for help. I mean, all of them are really good. I didn't give you any ones that I don't use myself. Using the laws, picking up a book, and I have like my Prime library, not Prime Amazon, but my primary set of books that I turn to, and I'll open one and I'll be like, what does that tell me? And that's how I use my intellect and the laws. But I ask for help. I'm like, I'm stuck. Or even, here's the thing. I don't get stuck that often anymore because I've done so much of this work. But if I have a hint, a smidge, just a whisper, a smoke, like a little just like, I'm going down a little rabbit hole there, I will ask for help because the sooner I can head that off, the better. And I'll ask for help in a very strategic way. I'm like, this is what I've done. This is what I've looked at. This is the way I'm solving this problem. So that we're not wasting time with things I already know. What am I not seeing?
Well, on the same level of asking for help, I think the people you surround yourself with, all of the people that work for you, we know that we can jump in and be like, hey, we need to change this, or we need to change that, and that's never going to be a problem. You might disagree, but nobody here ever feels like it's going to be a problem to say, hey, what if we try this, or what if we change that, or this isn't working. And I think a level of that goes along with your own vibration. Again, it goes kind of back to that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the way that relates to moving through the terror barrier is not being afraid. Like, I just don't set up drama in my existence, because I think that's a big... So this is interesting, okay? So historically, I was brought up with a lot of drama, emotional drama, and manipulation, chaos, crazy making relationships, okay? And I participated in those, okay? So I was a participant in that. I was an unconscious, ignorant participant in it in some ways, because I didn't understand that I was activating this as well. But subsequent to making some big shifts over my lifetime, and very larger ones in the more recent past, I have zero tolerance for drama in my life. And so, because that was a way that I stopped in the past, okay? In the past, was like emotional drama. And I have really strong boundaries around that. Like, I'm not willing to accept it.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to a previous episode where you were talking about raising your self-worth and your environment, and the people in your environment. That's a big part of your environment, whether that's actually your physical environment. That's a different aspect of your environment, but it's equally as important.
Who you surround yourself with is massively important. It can either support you or take you down, okay? And it's really a black and white thing. It might feel subtle, like he's very supportive in this way and very undermining in this way. That is frigging undermining. There's no two ways about it. Someone is either for you or against you. And they might look on the surface like they're for you, but you know if someone is not for you. Now, that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. People, like, I've changed hugely. I am no longer that emotional drama person, okay? I believe that people have the capacity to change, and you can absolutely better your relationships, but you need great relationships. You need to surround yourself with great people, and, you know, that's why it's so important to go to events, to seminars, to join masterminds, to choose your friends, to choose your relationships, because you need to be, and this is the Unstoppable Woman podcast, you need to be surrounded by unstoppable women who have the same mindset, who have the growth mindset, that are going for more, absolutely critical to your success. So, okay, I'm getting the signal to wrap it up. Wrap it up. Okay, she runs the show. Okay, thanks guys for listening. So happy to have you on this podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Be unstoppable. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those, and thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.